Trump still has to fill nearly 2,000 vacancies. Nearly 2,000 appointed positions in the administration of President Donald Trump remain vacant, leaving many agencies with large staffing gaps waiting to be filled, according to data reviewed by CNN. Meanwhile, Trump is noticeably behind the last three presidents when it comes to securing the confirmation of his cabinet and other top appointments that require Senate approval. Trump complained about the pace of confirmations Friday in a speech at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington. He told the crowd the administration was setting records for Senate delays and that he didn't like seeing all those empty seats at his cabinet meetings. The figures below show Trump indeed has had the least successful run of Senate confirmations since George H.W. Bush back in 1989. Many current vacancies don't require Senate approval. But the administration's ability to install political appointees goes far beyond those that require Senate confirmation. High-ranking roles like cabinet officials draw the most public attention and at times, controversy. But every president also gets to fill hundreds of other jobs throughout the federal government. For many such roles, Senate opposition is a non-factor. Those appointees can be named directly by the president or his top officials. Yet, as of Thursday, Trump had at least 1,987 vacancies within his new administration, most of which did not require Senate confirmation, according to data from tracking service leadership directories reviewed by CNN. The White House did not respond to a request for comment on its pace of appointments, and the data reviewed by CNN did not include federal judges. The vacancies examined by CNN included direct presidential appointments as well as what are known as Schedule C appointments, a class of political appointees the government describes as making or approving substantive policy recommendations and jobs that can be performed successfully only by someone with a thorough knowledge of and sympathy with the goals, priorities, and preferences of the administration. Those appointments are generally chosen by a president's aides or cabinet officials. They do not require Senate approval. According to the leadership directory's data, there are more than 4,000 positions classified as direct presidential or Schedule C political appointments. About two-thirds of those roles are hired at the sole discretion of the president, while about a third require Senate confirmation. The nearly 2,000 current vacancies in the Trump administration mostly require no Senate confirmation. While Trump has only 14 new people confirmed by the Senate, other jobs requiring Senate approval are still being carried out by people left from the Obama administration, often serving on an interim basis. According to the data collected by leadership directories, the Trump administration currently has about 400 vacant roles that require Senate confirmation, another roughly 400 direct presidential appointments sitting empty that don't require confirmation, and about 1,200 Schedule C vacancies that similarly do not require Senate approval. Trump may be having difficulty filling slots because some Republicans are reluctant to serve, and others are being passed over because they were critical of Trump during the campaign. Elliott Abrams, a veteran of the Reagan and George W. Bush administrations, was nixed by Trump for the No. 2 job at the State Department after he found out about criticism Abrams made of Trump during the campaign. Until then, he had been a leading contender for the still unfilled position. Placing the blame. Trump has blamed the slow pace of filling his cabinet in particular on Senate Democrats, who have used procedural measures to force the full length of time allowed for nearly all confirmations, slowing down the process. I still have people out there waiting to be approved and everyone knows they're gonna be approved. It's just a delay, it's really sad, Trump told the audience at the CPAC gathering on Friday. We still don't have our cabinet. I assume we're setting records for that. That's the only thing good about it is we're setting records. I love setting records. But I hate having a cabinet meeting and I see all these empty seats. Unable to stop any nominees without Republican support given the move to a 51-vote threshold by former Democratic Senate leader Harry Reid, Democrats have also resorted to tactics like refusing to show up for committee votes, forcing Republicans to reconvene and pass the nominee by suspending the rules the following day. Democrats counter that many of Trump's nominees have had trouble getting their paperwork in and have not answered questions in a timely manner. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt was the most recent Trump nominee to receive Senate approval when he was confirmed last week over Democratic opposition. First choices fall out of favor. But as Trump continues to search for more names to fill out his nascent administration, he's also already seeking replacements. This week, Trump named Army Lt. Gen. H.R. McMaster to fill the role of National Security Advisor. Trump has also already named a replacement to be Secretary of Labor after the first nominee, fast food executive Andrew Puzder, withdrew his nomination in the face Republican opposition. Alexander Acosta, Dean of the Florida International University College of Law, was named less than 24 hours after Puzder withdrew. The nominee for Secretary of the Army, Vincent Viola, also withdrew from consideration, citing trouble disengaging from his business ties. A replacement has yet to be named. Judge rules against dismissing charges against Army SGT. Bo Bergdahl. A military judge has ruled against dismissing charges against Army SGT. Bo Bergdahl, despite his lawyers' claim that President Donald Trump violated their client's due process rights. Bergdahl faces charges of desertion and endangering fellow soldiers after he disappeared from his base in Afghanistan in June 2009 and was held in captivity by the Taliban until May 2014. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump said Bergdahl should be shot for walking off his post. Trump also said that in the good old days, he would have been executed. The White House did not respond immediately to a request for comment Saturday on the judge's ruling. After Trump became president, Bergdahl's lawyers argued the judge should dismiss the charges against their client because of Trump's comments, contending that it would not be possible for Bergdahl to get a fair trial. But Army COL. Jeffrey Nance wrote Friday that while Trump's comments were troubling, they did not constitute a sufficient due process violation. The comments by Mr. Trump that might be considered pre-trial publicity are not so pervasive and unfair as to saturate the community and prevent any trier of fact from being impartial, Nance wrote. He added, Mr. Trump has said nothing about the accused or his case since August 2016. Under these facts, the court cannot find a due process violation sufficient to make amelioration measures futile. Eugene Fiddle, Bergdahl's chief defense lawyer, told CNN on Saturday that his legal team will take the case to the U.S. Army Court of Criminal Appeals on Monday. The military judge's decision was wrong, Fiddle added. Extraordinary release is required to protect SGT. Bergdahl's rights to protect the integrity of the military justice system. Since the officers who could help decide the outcome of Bergdahl's case ultimately report to the president, Fiddle argued that Trump's statements constituted unlawful command influence, the idea that anyone with the mantle of command authority could wrongly take actions that influence decisions about a defendant. Trump's promises hit Washington reality in first month. Remember the first time I talked about NATO, I said they all owe money? The first time anyone ever asked me a question about NATO. I said two things: it's obsolete because it doesn't cover terrorism. They have now opened up a division to cover terrorism, solely because of me. And experts on NATO that do nothing but study it said, you know, Trump is right. And I knew nothing about NATO, I knew very little about NATO. But you watch what's going to happen. They're paying big league. They owe a lot of money. Many countries owe a lot money. Number 1, 2% is a low number, and number 2, only 5 countries are paid up. In his first month in office, Trump has found the vast government machine can't be reset at a president's whim with the same ease that an executive can manage a business. Rival power centers in the courts, the bureaucracy and Congress can emerge as a threat at any point. In just the past week, political pressure forced Trump to fire his national security advisor and watch one of his cabinet nominees withdraw from consideration. Meanwhile, Trump is facing persistent and growing questions about his campaign's ties to Russia as some fellow Republicans on Capitol Hill become more vocal about their concerns. And legislative victories are hard to come by as congressional Republicans struggle to unify behind policy measures.
By many measures, the new administration has been a shot of adrenaline for the economy. The new president pushing U.S. companies to keep more jobs in the country, approving long-delayed pipeline projects, and promising infrastructure improvements which could inject $1 trillion into American industry over the next 10 years.
We are going to lower taxes on American business so it's cheaper and easier to produce product and beautiful things like airplanes right here in America.
The stock market rose more in President Trump's first month than it has for any other new president since LBJ. How much credit he deserves is debatable, but consumer confidence, already growing under Barack Obama, is still climbing too.
This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine.
On key issues for his party, he's kept his word, picking a conservative Supreme Court nominee, pressing ahead with talk of repealing and replacing Obamacare, even though details are lacking, cracking down on immigration, and still preparing for a wall on the Mexican border. His supporters are thrilled.
We the people, our movement, is the reason why our president of the United States is standing here in front of us today.
But President Trump's first month has also seen streets flooded with protesters infuriated by his policies. His already low approval rating has dropped even lower. His travel ban, aimed at 7 largely Muslim nations, has been derailed by the courts, leaving him lashing out while working on a rewrite.
The new order is going to be very much tailored to what I consider to be a very bad decision.
The abrupt departure of his national security advisor prompted reports of chaos in the White House and fears of Russian ties. His foreign policy statements have raised alarms abroad, but most of all, the administration has suffered from unforced errors, a tendency to make false statements, to conflate personal and political concerns, and to blame it all on anyone else.
What we've been through over the last 10 days has been unbelievable. The leaks, the fake stories, the anonymous accusations, that stuff is bad.
And Democrats form a generally solid bloc of opposition. The transition from candidate to president is tough for virtually every young administration. Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, for instance, had rocky opening weeks as their campaign idealism encountered Washington reality. But Trump's first month in office is especially noteworthy since so much of his trouble stems from self-inflicted wounds ranging from the rushed rollout of his travel ban to his frequent Twitter distractions. The sense of turmoil surrounding the new administration could undermine a central tenet of Trump's pitch to voters that he is a non-politician uniquely positioned to make a deal and get Washington working again. "Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it," Trump said last summer when he accepted the GOP nomination in Cleveland. "I have seen firsthand how the system is rigged against our citizens." Checks on presidential power. He started out in Washington by keeping faith with those beliefs, unleashing a dizzying sequence of executive orders that revealed a determination to wield firm executive power. But the backlash was swift as the checks on presidential power soon activated. Trump quickly came up against the judiciary when a federal court halted his controversial executive order banning immigration from 7 majority Muslim countries. Despite GOP majorities in Congress, Trump isn't making much progress on his legislative agenda. Opposition is growing in the Senate to paying for his border wall now that Mexico has refused to fund it, CNN's Manu Raju has reported. Democrats infuriated the president by clogging up confirmation of cabinet nominees. That's all they're doing is delaying. And you look at Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and the mess that he's got over there, and they have nothing going. "The only thing they can do is delay," Trump said during an extraordinary White House press conference last week. Congress is not alone in provoking Trump's ire. A leaky federal government and intelligence community with which he is locked in a perpetual state of war are also resisting Trump's attempts to exert control over his administration. White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus denied Sunday there was dysfunction in the president's inner circle. The truth is that we don't have problems in the West Wing, Priebus said on NBC's Meet the Press. The amount of drama and spin that you read about mostly in the Washington daily gossip rags is unbelievable stuff. And it just isn't true. Getting out of Washington. Amid the negative headlines, Trump is getting out of Washington and aiming to speak directly to the American people. He delivered a speech Friday touting his jobs agenda at a Boeing factory in South Carolina and a campaign-style rally over the weekend in Florida. He's slated to deliver an address to a joint session of Congress later this month that will give him one of the strongest venues available to project presidential strength. But Trump's early stumbles have overshadowed some of areas where he could otherwise claim success. Well-choreographed visits from the leaders of Britain, Israel, Canada, and Japan followed a host of executive orders that began to dismantle Obamacare and federal regulations and open the way for cross-continental pipelines, as well as Trump's withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. His unveiling of Neil Gorsuch as his nominee for the open Supreme Court seat was one of the most flawless moments of his presidency. Still, controversy can develop in unexpected directions in Washington and exhaust the White House staff in a way that can be detrimental to a presidency. Trump is not the first president to come into power with a team that doesn't seem to quite measure up to Washington's demands. I think every administration goes through that, Trent Lott, a former Republican Senate Majority Leader, said in an interview. I was here through Carter, when a bunch of Georgians who thought they were the smartest guys in town arrived and they were going to fix everything. When Ronald Reagan came to town, he brought a bunch of Californians, idealistic ideologues who found out pretty quick that they needed help from Jim Baker, Lott said. Through trial and error, Clinton and Reagan learned to work the inside game in Washington to advance what were sometimes seen as outsider political aims. But Trump's attempts to fight back against the restrictions all presidents face could be complicated by another factor: his idiosyncratic character and political style, which were an undoubted asset when he reinvented the rules of the presidential campaign but have not yet proven effective in governing. His constant feuds with enemies, sometimes on Twitter, cast doubt on his temperament, as do his unpredictable eruptions and struggles to stop gloating about his election win. His press conference and weekend rallies helped keep his loyal supporters happy and boosted his own morale. But it seems unlikely that he meaningfully advanced his political agenda. GOP majorities on Capitol Hill should ensure that big-ticket issues like tax cuts and Wall Street reform get done, and that Trump can bill them as the kind of wins he promised would dazzle Washington. And if any politician can get away with such polarizing tactics, it's Trump. The president's campaign essentially changed the laws of physics last year, said Bill Lacey, director of the Dole Institute of Politics at the University of Kansas. All the so-called experts have been wrong consistently, Lacey said, adding that Trump had changed the way presidents are viewed along with the usual codes of behavior in the White House and Washington. Traditionally, a president couldn't do that and get away with it. With this president, that remains to be seen.
Let it go.